What's up, Wealth Warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Do Different Better Show, your go-to podcast for redefining success, leveling up your finances, and truly understanding wealth. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, CEO and founder of Social Impact Now, Connect Up Institute, and managing director of the Integrated Capital Fund. Today's topic is something I'm deeply passionate about, and I know you will be too. What is the definition of wealth? Before we dive in, let me throw out an interesting statistic that might surprise you. According to a recent Money Guy Wealth survey, 75% of millionaires do not consider themselves wealthy. Let that sink in for a moment. People who are financially successful by most standards still don't feel wealthy. So if millionaires aren't feeling wealthy, what does wealth really mean? Today, we're going to unpack exactly that, redefining wealth beyond the superficial trappings of luxury cars, designer clothes, and oversized mansions. We'll explore true wealth, the freedom to live life fully on your terms. So, what does wealth truly mean? Many people equate wealth with a large income or expensive stuff, but being rich is really very different than being genuinely wealthy. Richness reflects external status, high earnings, fancy vacations, luxury homes. But wealth is something deeper, something far more substantial. Wealth is about freedom. Wealth means having the freedom to focus on what truly matters in your life. It's taking the liberty to make choices based on desire rather than purpose or the financial constraints. Being able to wake up every day and decide how you want to spend your time, where you want to put your energy, and who you want to surround yourself with without the constraint and anxiety of financial insecurity. Wealth isn't measured just by the dollars in your bank account or the assets you own, but by the quality of life and freedom you experience every single day. I'll share my story of discovering the definition of wealth. I was in my early 20s, early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and I got a book by Susie Orman. I can't remember the title, but in the book, Susie talked about starting small, saving a little bit here, but being consistent. The real task wasn't just about saving, it was about starting, right? And being consistent. So I was working as a coordinator at a university. I think I was making $12 an hour. That wasn't a lot at the time. And I just started saving $5 a week. Then when I got really comfortable with that, after about maybe 4 or 5 weeks, then I started saving $10 a week. And when I got really comfortable with that and I didn't miss it, I started saving $20 a week. And I had it in a separate bank account than where I usually did all my banking. I knew enough to do that, or maybe Susie had pointed that out in the book. But after several months went by of consistently saving, I don't even think I looked at that bank account. My son at the time needed something for school. I can't remember what it was. It was probably some equipment for his Taekwondo lessons or maybe something for a sport that he was working on. He was big into basketball at the time. What I do remember is the feeling that I had when I knew I didn't have to check my bank account to see if I had the money. I knew I had the money and felt extremely good that I didn't have to check my bank account. It was the single greatest feeling in the world. And I had never felt that in my entire life. That was the other memorable part of that memory and that feeling. It was in that moment that I felt like I knew what being wealthy actually meant. And that was life-changing for me. And I've been chasing that feeling ever since. But it was really about knowing and feeling like, oh, I got this. And if I got this, I could keep doing this. And what more could be available to me if I just kept going on that path? It was amazing. I can't even tell you. Now, you might be wondering why 75% of millionaires still don't feel wealthy. Well, it really comes down to how people perceive wealth. For many, there is always this moving goalpost, a constantly shifting a number or milestone. As soon as someone reaches one goal, they're always ready to chase another. It's a cycle of perpetual dissatisfaction fueled by comparison and the societal pressure of keeping up. Moreover, feeling wealthy is also deeply psychological. Many successful individuals fear losing their wealth or worry about future uncertainty, which, let's be honest, life is uncertain. It is one big uncertainty after another. Even when they're objectively secure financially, they may not feel emotionally or psychologically safe. This insecurity can keep even high net worth individuals from truly embracing and enjoying their wealth. Consider this. You might think someone earning $500,000 a year is undoubtedly wealthy, but if they have significant debt, heavy lifestyle costs, spend lavishly on items that signal wealth like donning expensive designer brands, or simply having an anxious relationship with money, they might feel less wealthy than someone earning $75,000 a year who has little debt, solid savings, and true financial peace. So, let's shift our focus inward. I want you right now, or if you're driving, not right now, but when you get home, to reflect deeply and personally on this question. What does wealth mean to you? Not your parents, not your partner, not your friends, not your community, not anything else, but what does wealth mean to you? Grab a pen or open up your notes app and write down 3 things that, if you had unlimited financial resources, would be your top priorities or values you wanted to live by. Maybe it's spending unlimited time with your family, traveling without concern for cost, or dedicating yourself to charitable work or hobbies that fulfill you personally. Maybe it's being a digital nomad or raising your family in another country. Perhaps it's about health and well-being and mental peace, or the ability to take breaks and not constantly feel like you're on the hamster wheel hustling. I talk about this a lot when I consult with my clients, especially entrepreneurs. It's really important to understand, why are you doing this business? Or why are you doing anything? And what does success look like? This is important so that you have some sort of signal that makes you pause and decide that you have arrived. Recognizing these priorities is crucial because it creates your personal definition of true wealth. Here's the first action step from today's episode. I want you to write down these 3 values clearly and vividly. And hopefully by now, if you've been listening to the show for a while, or even if you're new, I want you to get a book, of a finance book, right? Or maybe you call it your money book, your money log, whatever. But it's something that where you're going to capture all of these action items that I give you on the show and track your finance journey or your money journey, whatever it is you want to call it. Call it something fun. Call it something that doesn't give you anxiety, right? But I really want you to write down these 3 values clearly and vividly. I want you to see it in 3-dimensional or 4K. And I want you to think about it as if it's already happening. Then I want you to ask yourself, how closely does my current financial situation align with these 3 values? Also think about and notate, what changes can I make starting today to get closer to this vision of what I'm defining as wealth? This reflective exercise is not just theoretical. It's going to be your roadmap. It helps clarify the life you want to build, guiding your financial decisions and habits moving forward. So once you get clear on this, every time you have a major financial decision, and when I mean major, I'm not talking life or death. I'm talking about as much as like, hey, my friend called me and says they want me to go take this trip to Bali. I want you to go back to this and be like, if I take this trip, is this in alignment with my values? can I actually do this right now? Or is this something that I need to save for, or I need to hold off on indefinitely? Or can I make some lifestyle changes today in order to take advantage of this once in a lifetime opportunity? Perhaps the opportunity is your friend works at an airline and they got tickets 50% off. Well, this isn't about constraining yourself so that you don't do it at all. It's about, if you're going to make the decision, that you're making the decision mindfully. You understand the consequences and you understand the strategy that you're going to implement if this is something that is out of alignment with where you are at the moment, right? So if you take this trip and it is a big hit, what are you going to do when you get back from the trip? Are you going to start a side hustle? Are you going to take on a part-time job for a limited amount of time? Are you going to start putting more into your savings to make up for what you took out of your savings to make this trip, or whatever the opportunity is? But the whole idea is that there's intentionality around the decisions that you're making and the choices that you're implementing, and that you have a strategy and an approach to doing it, and that it's not just happening to you. You're like, oh, you go on the trip and you never think more about it. You come back and now you're in financial ruin, or you're in a higher sense of financial insecurity than you were when you left because you didn't have a plan in place. That's really the goal. Once again, not to deny yourself, but to be intentional and thoughtful about what you're doing. As we continue with today's show, we're really going to be diving deeper into practically how to move through the different stages of wealth and how you can begin actually today, regardless of where your current financial situation is. We're also going to unpack the 5 distinct levels of wealth as defined by our friends at the Money Guys Show, and discuss specific actions and strategies that will help you ascend through each level. Remember, true wealth isn't about superficial status symbols. It's about creating real freedom, meaningful opportunities, and lasting peace of mind. So I hope you're going to come back and stay tuned for the next segment, where we start to explore the 5 levels of wealth. Where are you? And help you pinpoint exactly where you stand and what you need next, what should be your best move. Okay, we're going to be right back after this quick break. You're listening to the Do Different Better Show, the podcast that shares money moves and wealth wisdom for everyday people and guides you every step of the way. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. I'll see you back here soon. Welcome back, my future millionaires. In segment 1, we discussed the true meaning of wealth beyond flashy cars or oversized homes. Now we're diving into how wealth is built and measured through the Money Guys 5 levels of wealth framework. Understanding these levels not only helps you recognize where you are, but sets clear goals for your financial future. So let's get into it. Let's start off with level 1, the financial stability stage. At this level, your primary focus is really straightforward. It's not very complicated at all. This is where you're consistently covering your bills and everyday expenses without any stress. But here's the kicker. Around 40% of Americans still struggle at this stage, wrestling monthly just to break even. So here's an actionable tip. Right now, if you're in this stage, your main goal is establishing financial control. This means building a basic emergency fund and tackling any high interest debt, especially credit cards. It might be your car. I remember back in my 20s, I can't even believe it now at this point, but I had an interest rate on my car. I think it was like 10, 11%, which at the time was crazy. It doesn't seem too out of a line now, but at the time it was insane. And so for me, that was the thing that I needed to tackle. I had a car payment where probably 60% of it, 70% of it, I was just paying interest. And so for me, it wasn't so much credit cards that were the problem. I needed to pay off this car to receive any kind of financial freedom. I think my car payment at the time was about $300. And that was a significant chunk of my salary every month. And so that for me was the big thing. Let me pay off this car because it felt like it was a noose around my neck. And I knew that if I could pay off the car, I knew that I would be able to now afford any repairs on the car that were going to be needed. It was an older car, so I knew I was on a very limited timeline. I was on a very short leash on when those repairs were going to start to come. But at this stage, it's really the time to start developing habits like budgeting, tracking your expenses, and intentionally saving. I've done some episodes on this, so I invite you to check those out. I did some on budgeting. I've done some on saving. I've done some on creating your FIRE number and what could you live without and how to go through that process. However, there's also lots of digital tools to help you do this as well. I just recently discovered a platform called Monarch. I haven't had a chance to try it, but it looks very, very user-friendly. And it looks like what it does is similar to some of the other ones like Rocket Money, and it'll pull from your credit card information and give you signals as to how are you spending, what are you seeing repeats of, what might be things that you can cut out. Maybe what are you paying twice for, right? Are you paying for an old boyfriend or girlfriend's Netflix account and you're not together anymore? So now you're paying for Netflix twice and you're not even recognizing it. It's going to help you be able to pull some of those things out and have some immediate savings. But think about this. If you recognize some of those things are happening, take that money now once you stop that subscription and put it directly into a savings. So you might be spending $20 on a secondary Netflix account or a Disney Plus account. Instead of just saying, oh, now I found $20 every month, take that $20 and start a savings account if you don't already have one. If you already have a savings account, add it to the savings account. Make it an automatic withdrawal. You weren't missing it anyway. So keep it going. Keep the habit going. But now you've turned what could be feel like a negative where you've lost all this money and turn it into a positive. And now it's going into some sort of savings and hopefully a high yield savings account. So here's a quick example. Consider someone earning $50,000 a year, living paycheck to paycheck. By creating a clear budget and setting aside just $250 monthly towards debt repayment or savings, they immediately take steps towards greater financial stability. Remember, mastering this stage isn't about massive income jumps. It's really about the power of small, consistent actions that build financial peace and confidence. Think about if you've ever heard the butterfly effect. The idea of the butterfly effect is that a butterfly could flap its wings and cause a tsunami halfway around the world, right? So this whole idea is like small steps make incremental moves, right? So just starting thinking about $1 compounded a day. It's like $1. If you saved $1 every day, yes, that would be $365. But if you put $1 every day into a bank account that's accruing interest, it's going to be multiplied. That's the power of incremental action and consistent action. And that's what I'm asking for you to consider to do. So now that we've talked about stage 1, let's move on to stage 2. This is the stage where we arrive at what's called financial strategy. This stage signals you've stepped beyond mere survival. Here, your dollars aren't just paying bills, they're intentionally working for you, thanks to strategic investments. Did you know that only 16% of Americans save over 15% of their income annually? The vast majority miss out on crucial growth opportunities, like we just talked about with the high yield savings account, or even investing in their 401k, maxing out their 401k. I'm a big fan of maxing out your 401k if you can financially swing it. At this stage, you're saving consistently, ideally hitting or surpassing the 20 to 25% mark. You're contributing to your retirement vehicles like a 401k, your Roth IRA, and you're maximizing the power of compounded interest. So here's a tip. Automate your financial habits. I can't tell you how much this is going to help you. Automation removes emotional barriers or forgetfulness from the equation of moving your money goals. Set up automatic contributions into your retirement accounts. A lot of times your employer allows you to do that. Even some of the HR platforms like Gusto, if you wanted to divert some of your paycheck into a savings account that's separate than your bank account where you are paying your bills, it allows you to set up multiple accounts where your money can be divvied up into multiple bank accounts. And I always recommend that if you're going to use a savings account, one of the online banks is really great because you're not going to just pull up to an ATM and take out the money. You're not going to just go to the store and pull out the money. And sometimes these online banks don't even have debit cards, right? So that you won't be tempted to buy that pair of shoes or go to that extravagant dinner with your friends. You're actually going to have to make sure it allows you to make sure that all the money that's going over there stays over there. But also automating money that goes to your emergency savings. Maybe you have a third bank account that is your emergency savings. Do you have your maybe emergency savings for like anything that might happen? Maybe for something breaks in your brakes go out on your car, but then you might have a longer term savings plan in case something happens, like the roof on your house or your insurance deductible, which, oftentimes is $5,000. These are the things that you might want to set up multiple accounts for, so that different amounts of money are going into each one of those accounts, but also automating your investment portfolio. For me, I have a certain amount of my money go from my bank account into my investment trade account on a regular basis every pay period. Every time I get a check, I have money going into that's automatically adding to my investment portfolio. So now not only am I building on the compounded interest or nature of the market that I'm invested in, I'm also multiplying my money by continuing to add to that investment account. So you can see these are simple things that you can do on the regular that once they're set, they're done. Additionally, think about regularly tracking your net worth to visualize your progress. This app that I was telling you about, Monarch, it does that automatically. Betterment is another platform that does this. I don't think Betterment will look at your credit card statements. Monarch, it looks like that platform does, but both of those platforms can help track your net worth to see where you are and make sure that you're tracking to whatever you're on your goals. So now let me give you a real life example. Imagine hairdresser Isa is earning $75,000 annually. She started saving 20% each month into a Roth IRA and has an employer-sponsored 401k through the salon that she works at. After 5 years, Isa has built a significant retirement nest egg far ahead of her peers, simply by letting automation and strategy work their magic behind the scenes without any sort of effort. So now we're going to move on to level 3. This is the financial security stage. At this level, your finances aren't just stable, they're comfortable. You don't worry about small indulgences like daily coffee, dinners out, or spontaneous purchases. This level, however, has its traps, most notably lifestyle creep. As your income and comfort levels rise, expenses often follow suit. Be mindful here. Allow yourself to enjoy life, but stay vigilant about your overall financial plan. Always maintain spending below your means. I think Kevin Hart talks about this when he was on the come up. He was spending like less than 50% of whatever he made. So whatever he made, whatever check he got, it didn't matter the size. He would not spend more than 50%. The other 50% went into savings. Now, in an instance like that, that means you are living probably a very frugal life for a very long time. But as you can see, it's paid off. He has multiple investments. He is clearly somebody who, as besides, has and had an opportunity to increase his net worth as by being his professional development and being able to demand more and more salary. But I'm going to imagine to some degree he is still living that below his means lifestyle. So here's a tip. Adopt the practice of mindful spending. Celebrate milestones, but avoid unchecked extravagances. Plan intentional splurges like vacations, hobby, or home upgrades rather than habitual overspending. I know for me what this looks like is I have a clothing allowance that I give myself every year. Now, if I could spend that clothing allowance all in the first quarter, I try not to because I like a nice jacket here and there. But I do have planned in my overall annual budget of, hey, there might be a blouse while I'm out shopping, or there might be a pair of shoes while I'm out traveling. I'm on the road a lot. So I see things in other places that I probably wouldn't be able to get here in the Twin Cities. And so I plan for those things and I have a budget for those things, right? Even when I'm going out with friends, if I'm going on a girls' trip or a trip with some friends, I set a budget for myself of what I can spend. I know with a certain set of friends, we're always going to go to the mall. So knowing that that's part of my travel budget, that I've accounted for that. And once again, this isn't about getting wrapped around the axle, right? I don't want you sitting in a dark corner with a pen and paper, and like sweating over every single penny. But the whole idea is that you are managing your expenses. Your expenses are not managing you. That is the goal. This is budgeting and planning, how budgeting and planning can play a critical role in keeping track and making sure you have a chance to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Maybe you have a FIRE number. Check out that episode. Maybe you have a FIRE number that you're trying to hit. And if you're not familiar with the FIRE number, like I said, I've got an episode for that. I encourage you to check that out. So here's the success indicator at this stage. You're securely managing expenses like family vacations, moderate luxuries without any stress. Perhaps you've upgraded your car to something nicer, but you paid cash or plan to pay it off quickly. The beauty of this stage is enjoying the fruits of your labor without financial anxiety. So next is the next stage. This is level 4. This is the financial freedom stage. Okay, this is the sweet spot that many aspire to reach. Here, your financial foundation is robust, enough that works becomes a choice rather than a necessity. At this level, your investments and accumulated assets generate sufficient income to cover your lifestyle comfortably. Maybe you're now on your third or fourth or fifth investment home, right? Maybe you've now purchased an apartment building and you're bringing enough cash that takes care of the asset as well as you comfortably. But be careful. At this stage, accurate planning is crucial. It's not enough to retire from work. You need clarity on what you're retiring to. Defining your vision, your lifestyle, and purpose in retirement ensures you don't underestimate your needs. So here's an actionable tip. Conduct a thorough financial projections to ensure your lifestyle aligns with your wealth. There are some great tools like Millionaire Next Door formula, which is age multiplied by income divided by 10 to gauge if you're accumulating wealth effectively. Aim to double the figure produced by this calculation, positioning yourself as a prodigious accumulator of wealth, or a PA. So here's a real life scenario. Think of Marcus, who's a truck driver. He's 55 years old. He's earning $150,000 annually. According to the formula, his net worth benchmark is approximately $825,000. Mike's net worth is $1.7 million, twice the recommended figure. He confidently transitions to educating new truck drivers part-time, spends more time with his family, and pursues hobbies he's passionate about, knowing his financial foundation is secure. So now let's transition into level 5. We've explored financial stability, strategy, security, and freedom. But what's next? Up next, we dive into level 5, financial abundance. Here, wealth transcends personal freedom, extending into legacy building and broader impact. Stick with me as I unpack what it truly means to live a life of abundance, purpose, and meaningful generosity. I'll have more actionable insights and some practical steps coming right back after the break. Stay tuned. I'll see you back here. You're listening to the Do Different Better show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. Don't forget to check me out on YouTube. You can watch this podcast at Do Different Better. And you can follow me on Instagram at Do Better with Elaine. I'll see you after the break. Welcome back, my millionaires in training, to the Do Different Better show. We have been diving deep today into one of the most misunderstood financial questions that is out there. What does it mean to be wealthy? Well, if you're just tuning in, let's do a quick recap. We kicked off by challenging the traditional ideas of wealth. It's not just about fancy cars and luxury homes and extravagant vacations. It's really about financial security, freedom, and the ability to do what matters most to you, when you want and how you want. We explore the critical difference between appearing rich and truly being wealthy. So, then in segment 2, we broke down the 5 levels of wealth, from the financial stability all the way up to financial abundance. We shared the key habits and mindsets and common pitfalls associated with each level. In this final segment, we're going to be rolling up our sleeves and putting it all together. We're going to craft a personalized roadmap to guide your journey to real sustainable wealth. So grab your money notebook or your whatever it is that you're using to track your financial journey, because it's time to map out your financial future. So first, let's start with step 1, assessing your current financial health. First things first, before you can chart a path forward, you've got to understand exactly where you are today. Let's take a quick financial health checkup. I want you to start by calculating your net worth. Here's how to do it simply. Take all of your assets. That's all the things you own, like your savings, the value of your home, even if it's not paid off yet, the value of your home, your investments. So if that's a 401k, you have a private investment portfolio, maybe you have a trust, and all of your retirement accounts. So for your 401ks, if you have any rollovers, anything like that. And then I want you to subtract all of your liabilities, such as the balance of your mortgage, student loans, car loans, credit card debts, and any other debt that you may have. So let's say, for example, let's say your assets total $300,000 and your debt totals $100,000. Your net worth is $200,000. Simple, right? But here's why it matters. Knowing your net worth gives you clarity. It helps you see your financial reality without any illusions. Once you've got that figure, you have a baseline, a financial snapshot of what your starting point is. Even if that starting point is 0, even if that starting point is negative. I don't want you to get wrapped around the axle around the fact that it might be a negative number. Now you know the number. That is the most critical thing. You've got to know the number. So I talk about, right now you might be walking around in a room in the dark, and every time you bump up against a financial anxiety or financial challenge, that's like bumping into furniture. Doing this exercise and all of these exercises that I share with you on the show, is all we're doing is we're turning on the lights. So now we know where the furniture is so we can stop bumping into it. Because once we do that, Now we understand the layout of the room. We understand where things are. We understand when we bump into things, which ones hurt more than the others. So then we can start to think about how do we want to rearrange things, right? You don't rearrange furniture in the dark. You rearrange furniture with the lights on and in the daytime, right? This is the same thing. So I don't want you to feel bad or feel a lot of shame if that number is 0 or if that number is a negative number. That's why you're listening to the show, right? So we're going to be on a path together to get you there. Do the other side. So I want you to write down that number and I want you to date it. I want you to put today's date on that number. Trust me, in a few years, you will be amazed at how far you've come, okay? And I plan to be there with you. So here's an action step. Right now, commit to updating this calculation annually. Maybe it's on your birthday. Maybe it's on your child's birthday. Maybe it's at the new year. Maybe it's halfway through the year. But the idea is to make it a habit. Make it a thing. Make it a dinner. Make it a coffee date. Whatever. Do it with a friend. Do it with your partner. Make a tradition out of it. It's going to be far more likely you're going to do it and far more likely you're going to be successful. Make it a financial tradition that you revisit every single year. Okay? Make it fun. So now let's talk about your goals. Why? Because wealth isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. True wealth is deeply personal. It reflects your dreams, your values, your vision of a fulfilling life. And no one's going to know what that is, not even your partner, more than you. I would be very concerned if your partner knew what that dream looked like more than you did. And it's fair if you're struggling, especially if you come from a home or you have a habit of talking about money isn't okay. Then you might want to seek ideas from friends, right? Get their input of like, hey, what do you think that if you were to see me in retirement, what do you think I'll be doing? How do you think I'll be living my life? What resonates for what resonates? What do you think? And then I want you to date that conversation internally and say, that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. I like that, but I don't like that. Don't just adopt what they're saying to you wholeheartedly. I want you to critically think through what actually feels good in your body. Is there something that makes butterflies come up in your stomach? That's probably something that excites you. But if you feel your heart beating faster, maybe that's not something that excites you. Or if you're feeling tingling in your hands, maybe that is something that excites you. So just pay attention to what's going on in your body as you're moving through these conversations, either by yourself, with your partner, or with friends. But you can ask yourself this: what do you want your money to do for you? Do you want the ability to retire early? Is your dream to travel around the world? Is it to launch a passion-driven business, pay for your children's education, or perhaps leaving a lasting legacy? Once you've outlined these big picture goals, it's essential to make them tangible. And I highly suggest maybe making it 1 to 2. It gets a little messy, particularly if you're new in your journey of like having a laundry list of these goals. But give it like 1 or 2 big ones so that you can kind of start to wrap your head and not get too overwhelmed. You may even just want to pick one and start there. So, for instance, instead of saying I want to retire comfortably, be specific. I want to retire at 55 with an income of $80,000 per year. Specific goals are actionable goals. Now, you can start to, with that number, you can start to now create a timeline to these goals, depending on your age. So if you're 25, you want to retire at 55 with an income of $80,000 at 55. Now you're going to think about what does that savings need to look like, or what does your financial investing activity need to look like between now and 55, right? Maybe you're at 50 and maybe you don't have that much of a timeline. You're going to maybe have to use some strategies that are far more aggressive, which could include maybe bearing back all your expenses. Maybe it's renting out your house and living in an apartment with a roommate, whatever those are. But the whole idea is that if the more specific you can be, the better you can plan. Now that you've added the timelines, you really want to add a deadline. A goal without a deadline is just a wish. You may have heard that adage before. So when you want to achieve these milestones, thinking about, is it 5 years? Is it 10? Is it 20? So here I'm going to illustrate this very quickly for you. Suppose you're 35 and your goal is to retire by 55. You have exactly 20 years to hit your number. Using simple math, if you want to save $1 million, you would need to invest around $1,500 per month at an average return of 88% annually. So that may seem impossible, but once again, it's not going to be something that happens in a vacuum. It's not something that you're going to start saving $1,500 today and when your income is $2,000. But the whole idea is now you know what the mathematical equation is, so you can start to figure out, what does that look like? Maybe right now you're going to start to save $500 a month. You're going to put that in a high yield savings account. In 3 years, you're anticipating that you have X amount of dollars, which now you're going to invest in an investment property, which is going to yield an X amount of dollars. So this is how you want to start building over time to get to that eventual $1,500 a month of savings. Because now you've got strategies that are making the $1,500 without you even thinking about it, right? So here's an action step for you. This week, take an hour to write out at least 3 clearly defined time-specific financial goals. Okay? Once again, put this in your money book, your financial notebook, whatever it is that you're tracking your financial journey in. But I want you to write it down. This is important and critical. So, next up, let's equip your financial toolbox. Building wealth is not just about intentions. It's about leveraging proven financial strategies and tools like I just kind of walked you through. The first tool, obviously, is budgeting and automating your savings. And I know that you've heard me say this 1,000 times, and I'm never going to stop saying it, so just get used to it. But it bears repeating. Like, I can't undersell how important budgeting is to your financial foundation. And it doesn't matter if you're using apps like YNAB or Every Dollar or Monarch, like I talked about. Your goal is simple. Spend less than you earn, automate your savings, and consistently put money to work, whether that's a high yield savings account, 401k, what other financial vehicles that you have at your disposal. A certificate of deposit, a CD, that's great too. Just a plain savings account is fine as well. Then you want to start thinking about how can you take advantage of tax-friendly vehicles like your 401k, a Roth IRA, a health savings account, or a flex savings account. These accounts give you savings. These accounts give your savings extra horsepower, letting your money grow faster through tax benefits. Then there's a third tool, diversification and growth. This is spreading your investments across different asset classes like stocks and bonds and real estate, and even alternatives like commodities or digital assets if that's appropriate. Remember, diversification is your best friend in managing risk. The fourth tool is continuous education. And that's the show, right? Stay sharp and keep learning. Financial education doesn't stop here. There are great books like The Millionaire Next Door. There are other podcasts like the Julian and Kirsten Saunders podcast. There's also keep listening to this podcast. There's some other platforms like Investopedia and Betterment that can help keep you informed and inspired. But the whole idea is commit to at least one new financial education resource each month, whether it's a podcast, whether it's reading a book, whether it's watching Bloomberg. Well, I used to, and I need to get back to this habit. I used to wake up watching Bloomberg in the morning. I would watch it for the first hour while I was getting ready for work. Now, do I understand everything that's happening? You might think that I do, but I don't understand everything that's talked about on Bloomberg. But the whole idea is that I'm being exposed to different conversations and different information, even though I may not know everything, right, that they're talking about. But here's the other thing that I can do and that I have done is if there's something that triggers me that I hear and I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'd really like to understand that more. I write that down in my phone, in the notes app, or maybe I write it on my whiteboard in my office and I go circle back to it maybe that evening or over the weekend. I usually do that kind of stuff over the weekend. I'm just so crazy busy during the week. So I put it on my list of things to do. Or if I get an article in my inbox, I will snooze that email to the weekend, and I have an hour on the weekend where I go and read and learn something new. So continuous learning is your best bet. Okay. So now I want to talk about some of the common pitfalls. As you embark on this journey, it's also vital to recognize some of the common pitfalls, that sneaky traps that can derail your wealth building journey. So, pitfall number 1, lifestyle inflation. Watch out for lifestyle creep, the tendency to increase your spending as your income rises. Ask yourself, am I spending because I can, or because it truly adds value to my life? Pitfall number 2, comparing yourself to others. And this is a big one, particularly in American culture. Comparison truly is the thief of joy and often wealth. Your neighbor's flashy car or your colleague's lavish vacations may not reflect their actual financial health. Focus on your personal goals, not keeping up with appearances, which was, by the way, one of my favorite shows on PBS. Shout out. Pitfall number 3, neglecting your health and relationships. Wealth is pointless if your health or relationships suffer. Make time to nurture these critical aspects of your life. They're irreplaceable and essential to a fulfilling, wealthy, truly wealthy life. So here's an action step. Regularly reflect on these potential pitfalls. Schedule a quarterly personal check-in to evaluate how you're doing in any of these areas, right? I think I've shared with you, me and my partner, we have a Sunday summit, and each Sunday summit has a theme. And one of the financial themes is finances. We talk about our personal finances. We talk about our financial goals together. We talk about our independent financial goals, and we talk about where we're stumbling and where we're falling and where we might need support from the other person. But it's an opportunity to share our wins and how we are actually how we're achieving the success that we wanted. Right. But it's also an opportunity for us to share where, I read this article. I heard about this thing. Hey, let's go to this meetup. There's this investment club that's starting. Hey, let's go check it out. That's our opportunity to talk about these things. Once again, schedule it. Now, do we meet every single weekend on the variety of topics? Sometimes things come up. Sometimes we're traveling. Sometimes I'm traveling and we can't meet. The whole idea is that we have it on the calendar and that we're regular and we're consistent about sitting and talking about these things. Okay. All right, my amazing Do Different Better family, let's quickly summarize your action steps for building true wealth. So, assets, assess and track your net worth annually. Clearly define your goals with specific timelines. Okay? Equip yourself with some budgeting tools and tax-advantaged accounts, and with your diversified investments and doing continuous learning. Listening to this show is going to be a part of that. So hit the subscribe button, y'all. That way you know I'm going to be in your inbox regularly, okay? I really want to invite you to stay vigilant against some of these common financial pitfalls like lifestyle creep and unhealthy comparisons. We have this I like to talk about, I work a lot with entrepreneurs and I talk about having an Instagram business, right? People look really great on Instagram or social media channels. That is not a reflection of truly what's happening. And I would argue the more that you see them on Instagram, probably they might be overcompensating for something. I don't know, just saying. So just be wary and really get focused and centered on what's important to you and what's valuable for you. And I know how difficult it is. We have all these signals that tell us that we're not as good as, or we need to do more, or we're less than. And I just want you to invite ways to quiet that voice and make the voice louder of like, what are you aspiring to? What's important to you? Is it that you want to be a digital nomad and live in a different country every 3 months? Listen to that voice. And what are the things that you need to do to make that happen? So as we bring this to the home stretch, right? As we close today, remember this crucial point. Wealth is not merely a number in your bank account. It's about having choices. It's about having freedom and the power to live life on your own terms. I want to thank you for joining me on this today. This may have been an emotional roller coaster for you, but I really enjoy you spending time with me on the Do Different Better show. If you found this valuable, subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone you know who needs it. Until next time, stay empowered, stay intentional, and keep doing better to live life better. I'll see you next time.